Whoa, whoa, whoa.
May I help you?
Yeah, I'm just going up to see Elaine Bennis.
Venice. There's no one here by that name.
Oh, she's house sitting for Mr. Pitt.
Ah, house sitter.
Yeah.
What are you, the boyfriend? Here for a quickie?
But I don't want to be a
Secondary character.
Hello, Ivan.
Hello, Stephen.
And hello to you, our listeners. We are But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. We're a Melbourne podcast, and every week we take a random episode of Seinfeld and examine the secondary characters from it. And as you can probably tell, I'm one of your hosts, Stephen.
And I'm the other host, Ivan, of course.
And this week we are doing a underrated episode from Season 6, Episode 18, The Doorman.
That's right, with Larry Miller, who plays the eponymous character, and boy, he is a snarky motherfucker, isn't he?
Yeah, lots to talk about when we do eventually examine him a bit later on in the episode. But yeah, definitely a complex character.
Very complex, and he definitely has it in for Jerry, and I'd say probably, I guess you'd say a superiority complex, or is it an inferiority? No, probably superiority, right?
Bit of both.
Bit of
I'd
both,
say
yeah.
Like I said, he's a complex man. If you want to talk about how complex you are, or if you have any bad experiences with doormen,
Or if you're a door person
women,
yourself.
or if you're a door person, you can email us at bidwellbustpodcast@gmail.com or on all forms of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. You can listen to all of the previous episodes of this podcast on your podcast app of choice, and it would really help out if you want to rate us or review us, and you can support us financially as well.
That's right, we are on Patreon and PayPal, and our current patrons as of recording, Tim, Holly, Nakia, Jeff, Kelly, Neil, and Dan. So thank you very much, guys, for supporting us. They're paying $2 a month plus applicable taxes, depending on where you're from, and they're getting bonus episodes of Curbcast, our Curb Your Enthusiasm review podcast, as well as this episode 1 week or thereabouts earlier than everyone else, and as well as Season 11, our current podcast series, where Stephen and I come up with modern-day episodes of Seinfeld.
That's right. Yeah, so thank you so much for your support, guys. We really appreciate it, especially during these times when cash is a bit harder to come by. Finally, as well, if you want to join our Facebook group, Seinfeldisms, we are the biggest Seinfeld group on Facebook. Check that out. I will be running trivia in the next week or two, so check out the details and join around 74,000 other Seinfeld fans on Facebook at Seinfeldisms.
And hopefully this time around, well, I was going to say, because we've gone to Seinfeld trivia a few times, you and me, Steve, but I think because you'll be orchestrating the trivia, you probably won't be competing. But yeah, hopefully, I was thinking hopefully we could go number one, but that won't be happening this time.
No, I think a bit of a conflict of interest there if I'm competing and running it, unless I find some sort of random Seinfeld question generator or load the trivia questions in when I'm really drunk so that I can't remember them. I think that's a bit of an unfair advantage there.
Fair enough, yes. I think maybe another time.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's kick the episode off. Let's start with Seinfeldisms. That is the intersection of Seinfeld and real life, where we talk about any Seinfeld-related moments that have happened in the last week in our lives. I've only got one this week, bit of a repeat from last week, which is that I was listening to a podcast, couldn't tell you what, and they happened to mention Seinfeld. Do you have any Seinfeldisms?
Actually, I told you, Stephen, earlier in the week that I don't have one myself, but there's a really awesome fan Seinfeldism that was given to us. So this is from a regular listener. His name's Parkers. He's the co-host of the conversation podcast The Campfire with Parkers and Daly, and they're currently on hiatus because of COVID. He got in touch with us over Instagram, and I don't think you've actually read this story, Steve.
No, you mentioned it to me, but decided to keep it as a surprise.
Yeah, it is fucking amazing, man. It's like one of the greatest Seinfeldisms I've ever heard. So Parkers said when he was in school, he did a cross-country race, for the school, and the winners would go on to represent, the winner or the top one or two would represent the school in like the regional finals. So he claims he was actually a terrible runner, but his friend was like the number one runner in the school. So what would happen is when they'd do the cross-country race, to keep track of everyone's laps, a teacher would use like a felt pen or a marker to mark the runners for each lap that they've done. One mark on your arm meant one lap. Parker's, for some reason, he was given 2 marks instead of 1, and it looked like he overlapped the number one runner in the school, and he actually, they just decided that he actually won the race.
Ah.
Yeah. And his friend apparently was really filthy about the decision because his friend, like I said, is like a top cross-country runner or was. Parker's was so embarrassed. He actually qualified for the regional championships, but he was so embarrassed he didn't actually attend. And he was humiliated by his teacher. And apparently his friend hadn't spoken to him for over 20 years, so he was probably a bit filthy about the decision.
Yeah, I can understand why he'd be dirty. I don't understand why Parker's just didn't clarify that it was a mistake. If he felt embarrassed enough to not run for the regionals, surely he'd just be like...
No, he felt too embarrassed, but the kicker is he actually said when people asked why doesn't he want to do the race, he'd say to people, I choose not to run.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
Like Jerry in the race. And I was like, oh, is your mate's name Duncan? And he's like, no. So that was a freaking awesome Seinfeldism. I was like, oh, thanks, man. So yeah, thanks, Parkers. That was a really, really ripper Seinfeldism, man. One of the best I've ever heard, I reckon.
That's a brilliant one.
Yeah, amazing.
Can't really top that.
Didn't even come from us, and it's one of the best. Crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I was hoping that I could have pulled off a long-term Seinfeldism this week. I actually got engaged through the week, and I was hoping that I could convince my fiancée to go and buy some cheap invitations and that she would lick them and not die, but get severely ill. But
oh, no.
We've decided to do the what's done these days, the 21st century digital invitations.
Yes.
So, I don't know, maybe I can infect her via a computer virus or something, like some super virus. I don't know.
She can lick the screen or something and get sick.
Yeah. Maybe I can put something on the screen and she'll lick it and, she'll get really ill.
Oh, hopefully not. Well, no, I was saying to you before, like when you mentioned this, first of all, like we never even made a pact about getting engaged, which is annoying. So we can't go back to that. But you've got to smoke and you got to have a prenup as well. So you got to try those two things. You got to try and like subtly get out of the engagement if you can.
That's true. Yeah, I've got to find reasons to postpone the wedding, get out of the engagement, do everything other than kill her, basically.
That's it. Yeah, you got to do that.
She actually came into the room coincidentally as I was talking about this, and she's obviously knows I'm joking, but she looked a bit shocked when I described what I regret I can't do in terms of Seinfeldisms. But, that's fine. She's allowed to.
Yes. We had a pact, Stephen.
We did.
Congratulations, you two. That's fabulous.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful news in these dire times.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough trot for many people, myself included. Yeah. So it's nice to get some happiness where we can find it in what is a grimmer year than most. Moving on to Seinfeld news. Unfortunately, we have to keep it on the grim train. Another passing of another Seinfeld alumni, actor Renee Santoni, who played Poppie on about 3 or 4 episodes of Seinfeld, I'd say. He passed away about a week and a half ago at the age of 81. His friend, who's a TV writer and producer, her name's Tracy Newman, she posted on Facebook that he'd been sick for quite a while and that he was a terrific actor, an improviser and performer, that she loved him very much and that he'll be missed terribly. And that another great one is gone.
Indeed.
And
Poppie, I was going to say, Stephen, Poppie's actually in this episode in the very end. So
yeah, he is. I know. It seems like a nice coincidence that we can talk a bit about Poppie in the episode where we reported Renee's passing. And like I said at the start of the news report, that he joins so many Seinfeld alumni. So we've got, in the last sort of 6 or 7 months, we have Wilford Brimley, who died a couple of weeks ago. He was in the Junk Mail as a Postmaster General. We also had Regis Philbin. He played himself when he was hosting Kramer, who was promoting his coffee table book. In May, we had Richard Hurd. He played Wilhelm in a whole bunch of episodes. George's boss at the Yankees. A couple of weeks before that, in early May, we had Jerry Stiller, who played George Costanza's dad, Frank Costanza. And late last year, we had Charles Levin. I can't remember who he played.
He played the Moyle in the Briz episode.
Oh, of course. Yeah. He passed away in November last year. So in the last sort of 8 or 9 months, we've had, 6 or 7 major passings, which is just,
Well, they are getting of the age, they're getting old. And we should do like an in memoriam episode maybe at the end of the year, We should do like a bonus farewell episode for the people from Seinfeld who passed. Yeah, no, that'd be nice. We can talk about the actors and their careers and maybe a few highlights here and there. I think so. We should do it end of the year. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Just a bit on Renee's career. He is best known probably for playing Poppie in Seinfeld. He also is really well known for playing Chico Gonzalez in Dirty Harry.
Yes.
It's probably his best known film role. He also acted in Bad Boys, not the 1995, I would say, action comedy. There was a 1983 movie called Bad Boys. He was in 28 Days, the underrated and most excellent zombie film. He was in Hawaii Five-0, The Odd Couple, and a whole bunch of other things.
Massive career,
so quite a career. He was never like an A-lister, but he was like a really, really highly regarded character actor, and he did serious roles, comedic roles, and everything in between. So an unfortunate loss.
Yeah, definitely. Rest in peace and condolences as well. We've been saying this every week for the last few weeks, but condolences to his family and friends.
Indeed, indeed. Moving on to slightly happier news, the actor James Hong, who played Bruce the maitre d' in the Chinese restaurant, probably one of the most popular and well-known and most quoted secondary characters from Seinfeld, for sure. There's a campaign happening at the moment led by another actor. His name's Daniel Day Kim. He's basically trying to get James Hong a Hollywood Walk of Fame star. The reason being is that James Hong is considered the most prolific actor in Hollywood history, at least one who's still alive. He's acted in more than 600 roles. He's appeared in Kung Fu Panda, Mulan, and Avatar, The Last Airbender as a voice actor. He's also acted in Blade Runner, Chinatown, Airplane, Big Trouble in Little China. I'm sensing a theme here.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and Daniel Day Kim, like I said, he's a lost actor. He actually launched a GoFundMe campaign, and I checked it just before we recorded. The initial goal was $55,000, and when I checked about 15 minutes ago, it had ticked over. I think it's $55,050 or something.
Right.
I think using that money, I don't know what the process is after that, but it looks like at some point, maybe this year or next year, James Hong will receive a much-deserved star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
As he certainly deserves it, because I think with those ones, the studios usually pay for them, or maybe the estates of actors or whatever. Yeah, you got to actually pay money to have one. You can't just get given one. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that James Hong had to do a fundraiser to get this done, I mean, that's crazy.
At the moment, he's credited in 671 roles. It's hard to officially sort of determine who is the most credited actor because, you know, there's probably a lot of uncredited roles from like college roles and independent roles and stuff. But at the moment, he's the most officially credited actor in not only alive in Hollywood, but in Hollywood history, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all the Seinfeld news for the week.
Very good, buddy. Let's take a really quick break, and when we come back, we are talking about some secondary characters from today's episode, Season 6, Episode 18, The Doorman.
Hello, folks. Matt McCoy here, a.k.a. Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld, and I'm telling you right now, I do not want to be a secondary character.
The Doorman from Season 6 first aired in the US on February 23rd, 1995, directed by Andy Ackerman and written by Tom Gamble and Max Pross. Elaine house sits for Mr. Pitt, Ian Abercrombie. Jerry goes to meet up with her to go to the movies and winds up offending the doorman, played by Larry Miller. So to make up for it, Jerry watches the door for him. But when Jerry leaves his post and the couch in the lobby is stolen, Jerry and Elaine formulate a plan to cover their tracks. Meanwhile, Kramer invents a bra for men, and George tries to find a way to get his father Frank out of his apartment. Bro, man's ear. Which one do you like more, bro or man's ear? I actually like man's ear. I'm with Frank on this one.
See, I was thinking that you could have both. So maybe initially launching with the man's ear to target to older gentlemen like Frank and Sid. But if that's successful, you can maybe introduce a product aimed at a younger market and call it the bro. So I think you should take advantage of both names. I think they suit different markets.
Oh yeah, man's ear sounds really fancy. It'd be like a rich old man would probably wear one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't like how Frank describes the bro as too ethnic. I don't think that comment has aged very well.
No.
But I think what he was trying to say was that it wouldn't appeal to men of his age who wouldn't understand the terminology of bro, growing up in the generation they did. So I think initially using man's ear, and then if that's successful, spinning out a younger market counterpart would be intelligent as well. I think that would be good marketing because they're both good names for different age groups.
There you go. You've had it down. Sid Farkus couldn't even figure it out.
Well, we all have our talents, and mine is thinking of appropriate names for appropriate bra markets.
Yes.
So I'm building on the marketing and salesman genius of Sid Farkus. I'm the next generation.
You are, man. You're Stephen Farkus. Nice. And other secondary characters in the episode: Estelle Harris as Estelle Costanza, Patrick Cronin, he appears for a second time on the show as Sid Farkus. Edith Fields plays Mrs. Payton, and Jack Betts plays Mr. Green. They're residences of Mr. Pitt's tower. Renee Santoni, the late Renee Santoni that we reported on Seinfeld News, he plays Poppie in a very short scene at the end. And Nick Jameson plays Horst, one of the German tourists. So, even a bit of trivia about the episode. Larry Miller, I could not believe this at all, mate. Did you know that Larry Miller was one of 2 finalists for the role of George Costanza, next to Jason?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense because I know. And I mean, it makes sense. He looks similar to George. He's got similar stature. He's bald. He's got brown hair.
A bit taller, though.
Yeah, a bit taller. That's true. But I didn't know that he came so close or that he was even a contender.
And he's actually a friend of Jerry's, a close friend of Jerry's. So,
Yeah, he's one of Jerry's best mates in real life. So that I'm sure that helped him out a bit.
I think a little bit, but no, the fact that he was a whisker from getting it and Jason beat him to it, I mean, that's unbelievable. I actually did not know that. As a massive Seinfeld fan, I did not know that at all. That was crazy.
No,
I can't believe it.
No. Yeah, definitely a surprise when I read that trivia. The scene where Kramer is pursued by the German tourists who noticed that he was the one who quote-unquote mugged George. That was actually added later on by Larry David, and it's a parody of a scene in a movie called Marathon Man, and I don't know anything about that film. Yeah, it was added later on during the writing process, I guess, to flesh it out and, have a few extra lols.
Yeah, because it was quite odd having that. It was like, that's really, really strange how Kramer would do that. I know I found it a bit off for the episode, but I guess it kind of worked out a bit in the end when Kramer, is cornered by the German tourists and he pulls out the bromance here and they're pretty impressed by it.
I love how he sort of like disarms the whole situation when they notice the bro, and he just goes on his pitch about the bro and they're really impressed. It just completely, de-escalates the situation.
Oh, indeed it does.
Do you have any other trivia?
Just one more. So in the scene, I don't know if you've seen the outtakes of this before or not, but there's a scene right at the end in the credits where Frank is in the bed with George and he offers him Kasha. And apparently, it took so many takes to get that scene done. Jason would not stop laughing. They had to shoot it, I think, dozens of times to get the right shot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have you
it
seen
would be
the
hard.
Outtakes? They're funny, man. You got to watch them. They're so good.
I'd like to check them out, though.
Funny as.
Yeah, no, I could imagine that would be hard to keep a straight face while doing that.
Yeah, Kasha.
Kasha. And he puts the bowl and the spoon so close to his face, it's almost like he's going to feed him, like he's a baby.
Of course, and that's probably why Jason just couldn't hold it in.
Yeah, sure. No, great scene. Great ending, too. One of those unexpected credits scene that has nothing, it's related to the episode, but it's not required to, to wrap up the storyline completely out of the blue, but absolutely perfect. Cherry on top.
Yeah, cherry on top, indeed, yeah. It was, the Jerry on top, Stiller.
The Jerry on top, nice.
He was on top in this episode, for sure.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
For sure. Anyway, shall we talk about some secondaries, my friend?
Yeah, let's start with Poppie. We'll,
the late Poppie.
We'll give him, we'll give him top billing considering the unfortunate passing of Rini through the week.
Fair enough. Well, obviously, yes, he was played by Rini Santoni. He made his debut in the episode The Pie. That's the one where he doesn't wash his hands. And Jerry spots it in the bathroom. We already did that episode, I think, maybe a couple of years ago. I think in 2018, maybe late 2017, we did that episode. So if you want to know a bit more about the origins of Poppie and what we thought, you can go back to that one. But I think this episode is probably, excluding the finale, probably the last one that he was in, I think.
Think so, yeah.
Yeah, right at the end. Yeah. So, and also he was in the couch as well. He famously peed on Jerry's couch that he gets given to George because George is his cheapskate. But yeah, with Poppie, he says that he goes to Mr. Pitt's building because he has a friend who lives there. I'm guessing probably because Poppie was a chef, and we find out in this episode that he sold his restaurant because he gets really angry, and when he's stressed, his heart plays up and stuff, so he has to be very calm. So the restaurant was a huge beacon of anger for him. I think maybe the person he's visiting, because it seems like a really exclusive apartment building, probably for really old rich fogies who've got millions. Yep. Maybe an apartment's a couple of million each or something. I'm guessing maybe Poppie befriended a man or a woman who ate at the restaurant, and maybe they've become friends.
Yeah, you've got some high profile people who eat at his restaurant. It's considered sort of fine dining Italian in the episodes where he has the restaurant, so it wouldn't surprise me that a more, I guess, rich clientele would be there, and maybe he befriended someone through being the owner. Maybe they came there as a regular, and over time they became good friends, and that's why he's still got a relationship even after he's sold his restaurant. One thing I was surprised, I can't remember if they talk about it in the couch, but this episode reveals that Poppie's, that he's based on his aggravation, when he gets worked up, one of the symptoms of that is incontinence. He can't control his bladder. Yeah. But my understanding in the couch was that he peed on the couch deliberately to almost get revenge on Jerry, that it wasn't involuntary.
I think that was our take. I think when we did, I vaguely recall when we did the couch, that was another episode we did way back when, but I think we did mention that it was a deliberate ploy to get back at Jerry. But in that episode, because he gets given wine and chili as a gift, and he can't
Yep.
eat all that stuff, and it makes him sick. Yeah, maybe, it was probably just a ploy back then to get back at Jerry.
Yeah, maybe at the time he didn't know that the two were linked, but, once he saw his doctor a bit more and he understood his condition, it was revealed that it was actually, it wasn't an intentional thing. It was involuntary when he gets worked up. Yeah, it was just surprising to find out that difference in how he understands his own involuntary urination. Yeah, I did like how they tied the couch back in, and Poppie, I thought that was a really smart. Sometimes when they crowbar characters in, it can seem a bit forced, but I didn't think it was forced in this. It was unexpected, but it added to the storyline.
I think it was absolutely seamless. I agree with you, man.
Yeah.
When Elaine turns up, because in the couch, I think it's in the couch where they have the argument about the abortion, and the abortion's the metaphor for the pizza in that episode. And
Well, the pizza's the metaphor.
Sorry,
for
the
the
pizza's the
abortion.
metaphor. Yes, for the abortion. Yes. But then when he, as soon as he sees Elaine, he gets rolled up.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he isn't a bit more salty at Jerry. It's almost like nothing, even though Jerry didn't do anything directly, he has had via Elaine, he's had sort of a bit of tension with Jerry. But the fact that it's maybe part of his recovery or part of his, program to look after his health is to try and, at least in his mind, let bygones be bygones, just so that he has a bit more peace in his mind.
Well, he actually mentions, Steve, that the restaurant was a big part of his anger and his stress.
Yeah.
So to get rid of the restaurant got rid of the anger and stress.
Yeah, but, the fact that he was just so open and friendly to Jerry and that there wasn't any sort of remaining tension was a deliberate choice as well by Poppie, just to reduce more tension even after the restaurant sold. But, Elaine is obviously someone he can't he can't resolve his own tension with Elaine. It's obviously a source for him.
Yes. Indeed.
Do you have anything else about Poppie?
No, not in this context, but I like I said, I think this was his final appearance on Seinfeld besides the finale. I think he was one of the people in the courtroom watching on. He didn't testify, I don't believe, but he was in it. But yeah, no, it was really appropriate that we talked about Poppie and Renee, especially with what happened in the last week or so. So and it's a very nice little send-off for Poppie in the show.
For sure. Let's talk about the main secondary character, Sal the Doorman.
Sal the Doorman, yes, he is played by stand-up comedian, actor, and writer Larry Miller. He's known for the films 10 Things I Hate About You, Pretty Woman, and The Nutty Professor. And yeah, I mentioned at the start of the episode, man, he has a bad complex. He thinks in a way like I mentioned if it was like superiority or whatever, but you mentioned it's probably a mixture of superiority and inferiority with his personality.
Yeah, I would say that, a lot of the time when people project an arrogance, it comes from a place of insecurity. That's what I sensed with him.
And he mentions as well, like even, when he's standing outside his door, and Jerry's like, why are you standing outside your door? Because he thinks he's a doorman at the house, and he goes, no, this is where I live. And
yep.
Yeah, that's right. I work a shift at the building, and then I come here to work another shift to help feed mother and baby.
Yeah, the poor doorman can't afford to put food on the table for mother and baby.
Yeah, the mother and baby, that's it. Yeah, he's just really uses that against you, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think Jerry's on the mark when he says that he's playing mind games. I've got a bit of a theory about Sal, if you'll indulge me. I don't think he's like this with everyone. I think he's mostly kind and normal to everyone. I think he has it in for Jerry because maybe he has feelings for Elaine and he sees Jerry as a threat. I mean, he even asks him, what are you, the boyfriend? Which would be none of his business. So I think
he's jealous.
Yeah,
okay. Nice.
While Elaine's been house sitting and just generally working at Mr. Pitt's apartment, I'm sure Jerry's come in and out to visit her, and maybe even a bit more recently because of her house sitting. I reckon he's noticed it, and he's seen them together. And I think maybe he has a bit of a crush on Elaine and he wants to mess with Jerry because he's jealous.
Yeah, probably say that too. I did not think of that at all because I was trying to understand like why he would be so upset at Jerry. Like maybe he knew that Jerry was a comedian and he didn't want to say anything and he felt like, Jerry was superior to him. But no, that's a really good point. He has a thing for Elaine. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he's just playing on the idea that people might look down on him for being a doorman. I don't think he actually feels inferior. I think he's just leveraging that perception that he thinks other people might have of him to sort of guilt Jerry and manipulate Jerry and make him feel awkward and weirded out and threatened. I think it's totally intentional. And I think he's just, screwing with him. I mean, as Jerry said, diabolical, he's planned it all out in his head. He's like, how can I screw with Jerry and get him in trouble? I think it's also a way to keep him away from the building because if he's quote unquote responsible for having the couch stolen, he couldn't have foreseen that the couch that it was, the replacement couch was a pea couch, but I think he set him up entirely, and that way Jerry would just feel too awkward to go near the building because so much bad stuff's happened. That would keep him away from Elaine.
Yeah, and he's clearly in with the FedEx guy as well. Like, it's quite obvious that they were in. You know, one thing that was really interesting, I loved that scene where Elaine and Jerry are back in Jerry's apartment and they're trying to figure out ways. What was it again? They were trying to figure out ways to, like, come up with excuses, because
I think they were just trying to get their story straight.
I love how it was like a Hitchcock. It was like something out of an Alfred Hitchcock film, It was like, to me, it kind of, even like if you mentioned that the doorman was in like love with Elaine or whatever, it's very like Hitchcock-esque. It's kind of like the weird doorman, and he's got like an obsession with like a lady who stays in the building, and he tries different things, and he conjures up these ideas in his head, and the boyfriend or the supposed boyfriend comes along, and he tries, maybe in a Hitchcock film he tried to get him murdered or something, But it's just like really interesting elements, kind of like a Hitchcock film, especially with Elaine and Jerry talking about how they're going to do their story. It just felt like a 50s film.
Yeah, no, I get the same vibe. I think the Hitchcock resemblance is the fact that, you've got a protagonist. He's not directly harming Jerry, but he's sort of from afar, he's manipulating him, and he set up events to confuse and to put Jerry in awkward situations. So I can understand why you would think it was, why it has a similar vibe to a Hitchcock film. I like that. I like that comparison.
Yeah, and also like when Elaine's like, so this is what we're going to say. And, Jerry's like, what are we going to say? And it just they sound like actors from like the 1950s. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a really nice
Elaine
homage, I think. And I love like it because with Hitchcock films, there was a lot of like shade and stuff. And I love like the lighting. It was like not much light and stuff. It made it look like this dark apartment. It was crazy.
One thing about Sal I really like as well is his style. When Jerry runs into him outside his own building, he's wearing a really nice black pea coat and the black flat cap. I think, he's a stylish man in his, in his off time from work. Yeah, I just like that. He kind of reminded me, and it kind of fits in with the Hitchcock mystery thriller vibe. He looked kind of like an old school spy. In the coat and the gloves and the flat cap. It just reminded me of like World War II style espionage or something like that. So I think that contributes to, even subtly to that idea of Hitchcocky manipulation, thrillery, whatever vibe.
You'd see Hitchcock regular Jimmy Stewart wearing that outfit, in one of those Hitchcock films. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but not a nice person, piece of work, as they say. Absolutely. But I find it interesting how in the first act, Jerry tried everything to avoid the doorman. Like the doorman gave him, was trying to, bait him, but Jerry wouldn't give him anything. But then to make sure that, because then he gets intimidated by the doorman and he doesn't want to go into the building while the doorman's working. And then in order to try and gain the doorman's trust or to make sure the doorman leaves him alone, he tries to befriend the doorman, but it backfires.
A lot of these sort of plans have to have more than one step to them. So I think the initial step of just making him feel a bit uneasy and a bit unsure of what this guy's vibe is, just to sort of disarm Jerry a bit and put him off. And then, he ramps up the attack, I guess, with each step. He sort of, I think he knows Jerry's path home, his route home, and he stands outside of his building on purpose, and he accidentally on purpose runs into him, which kind of escalates the tension and the weird scenario. And then the kicker is, setting him up for the couch being stolen. So I think it's, it's a strategic multi-staged situation in which to basically piss Jerry off, literally and figuratively,
yes.
Just so that he's not around Elaine because he sees him as a threat.
That's right, and he wants to get with Elaine.
For sure. Bit of a piece of work. Sal, the old doorman. He's more than a doorman.
Yeah, he's more than that. Yeah, he's like almost like a killer.
Yeah, he could be like a spy or something. Like he's very manipulative and he knows how to sort of mess with people's heads and, and he's really good at it.
Yeah, I think Larry Miller did a great job in the role too. Like he played this real snarky dude.
Yeah. And even the stare that he has, when Jerry's waiting for the lift that's going really slow and Sal's just staring at him and Jerry's trying to avoid eye contact and make conversation just to break the awkwardness. Just that stare is brilliant.
And then Jerry tries to break the ice saying, how about those Knicks? Oh, because I'm a doorman, I'm not educated enough to read the finance. I'm reading the sports.
Yeah, I'd read the sports page, huh?
Yeah.
It's whatever Jerry says, he can't win.
No, he can't win. No.
Yeah, everything is turned against him, even though Jerry's trying to be polite.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, that's all I had on Sal. What about you?
Yes, same. Why don't we talk about Sid Farkus?
Yes, this is his second appearance on Seinfeld, played by Patrick Cronin. He's known for the films Splash and Rocky V. He appeared in The Accountant, or the sniffing accountant, I should say. That's the episode where George tries to get an interview, and he's hired, but then because he feels the fabric of the head manager, he gets fired as quickly as he did getting hired.
Yep.
That's it. So Sid, we know that he is a long-time friend of Frank's. That's how George got the interview in The Sniffing Accountant, because of Frank helping him out. And we find out that he's had a long time crush on Estelle, and he's been waiting in the wings, waiting for the divorce, the wait out.
Yeah, for sure. I think as soon as he met Estelle, he was besotted with her, and even I think he does feel sorry for Frank separating. You know, his offer of, I guess you could say condolences, or can't think of a similar word. That seems sincere. When he sort of says sorry for their separation, but he's definitely an opportunist as well. I think it was pretty bad form. I mean, it was polite that he asked, and he wasn't doing it aggressively, but the fact that he asked in the same sentence, when he apologized to his friend, he's like, I'm sorry to hear about your divorce. Oh, by the way, can I ask her out? Like that's
a dog act.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just such a backhanded apology. You think, oh, my friend's really coming through for me and wishing me well during these difficult times. And then he does that. That's I can understand why Frank just goes, no, I'm not doing business with you. You're an asshole, and storms out.
And what the shitty thing is as well, Steve, is, Frank says, don't, you want to hook up with my wife or whatever. But then Estelle says in a later scene that she's going out to dinner with Sid. So Sid must have bloody just gone ahead with it anyway, regardless. So he has no regard for Frank at all. He just wanted to get with Estelle.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think he does see Frank as a friend, but his desire for Estelle, having been, unsatisfied for so many years, I think his desire for Estelle overrides his loyalty to Frank as a friend.
Yeah.
It's
terrible.
Just bad form. You just don't cut your mate's grass. It's pretty simple, pretty standard rule for life, I think.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do like how open he is to new business ideas. Obviously being Frank's friend and trusting him, and valuing his, opinions and his insights helps. But I like the fact that he is open to what could be a monumental failure, a male bra. But, he seems very keen on the idea. He sees it as commercially viable. And I like the fact that and that's probably why he's so successful. Frank calls him the best in the business. And it's probably because he is one to, see the potential in new ideas and not be too conservative about, exploring new business and market opportunities. So I do like that about him.
Yeah, he wants to be the first to get in line, so to speak. He wants to be the first to issue something.
Yeah, I think he's a bit of a pioneer in the bra game, for sure.
In the undergarments industry.
In the undergarments.
Hosiery, whatever they call it.
Hosiery?
Lingerie?
Lingerie?
What are they called?
Undergarments.
Undergarments, yes.
Yeah. Delicates, that's right. Intimates. Intimates. Yeah, that's like the department name at like Kmart or something. It's so it's so family friendly. Like, this is the intimate section.
It says in lingerie.
Yeah. Knickers.
Knickers.
Wait, mate, can you point us in the direction of your Reg Grundies section? For any non-Australian listeners, Reg Grundies is a slang for undies. I think it comes from Cockney slang or something similar.
But that's like a term from like the 60s or something, yeah?
Yeah, show us your Reg Grundies means show us your undies, your underwear. Just in case you thought, hang on, is there a secondary character in this episode named Reg Grundies?
Sid Farkus is second in charge.
Yeah, Reg Grundies. That'd be an awesome reference if they had, his immediate subordinate named Reg Grundy. Like, that'd be an awesome nod to Australia.
It would, yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else about any of the other secondaries?
Just a little bit about a couple of the residences of the tower, Miss Payton and Mr. Green. Miss Payton, she was played by stage and screen actor Edith Fields. She's known for No Way Out and Next. Mr. Green, he was played by Jack Betts, known for the films Spider-Man, Falling Down, and 8mm. Obviously, just like Mr. Pitt, very old, very rich, and very snobby. Mr. Green, he claims that he's lived in the building for over 20 years. Jerry comes up when he's doorman, and the man, he walks in the door, and he goes, "Excuse me, sir, do you live here? I've lived here for 20 years.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to suffer fools or suffer any person holding him up from going about his day or doing what he has to do very well. I think he's like a very confident, rich, arrogant kind of upper crust dude. I don't think he's used to people pulling him up on whatever he does through his day. The fact that he threatens to call the police is a bit dramatic, but I think that he's not used to being pulled up or asked to clarify why he's in a place or whatever, to explain himself in any way. So I think for him, calling the police seems like an appropriate response, because it's almost offensive to him.
Yeah. And then at first, Jerry just doesn't really know what to do, but then he understands Sal's plight, People, he starts saying to people behind the back, what, you think you're better than me?
It's almost like the doorman hat has it's like the mask, you put the mask on and you become someone different. The hat just turns you into a weird asshole. Yeah, because Jerry just turns into Sal, he's got an attitude. He's really snarky to people. But as soon as he takes the hat off and throws it on the bench, he's back to his normal old Jerry, which is still actually pretty snarky and a bit of an asshole.
In his own way, yeah.
Yeah.
And also Miss Payton, she's the one who, because the cops are downstairs, and she reports the couch going missing. And, and then Elaine turns up, and, Elaine tries to say her story, pretending that, she doesn't know anything about, the couch or, any of that kind of stuff, or any kind of problems. And then Sal the Doorman, his conspiracy or his plan comes into fruition, and he shows Mrs. Payton the signed FedEx thing by Jerry.
Yep.
It blows the whole thing out of the water.
Yeah, too convenient. I think Mrs. Payton, if we're assuming that she's also a rich snob, and Elaine is not, she's just an employee of Mr. Pitt, who is part of the rich snobbery of that apartment complex. I reckon Mrs. Payton probably looks down her nose at Elaine a bit, because Elaine doesn't come from or isn't part of, the upper crust of New York.
No, she's not part of high society.
No. So, yeah, I would assume that maybe Mrs. Payton, I don't think she directly, gives a shit, but I think privately she would look down on Elaine a bit.
Yeah, because she knows that it's obviously not her apartment, it's Mr. Pitt's.
Yeah. She probably sees Elaine as potentially someone who wants to, gym into, an elite circle of people just by extension,
And she probably feels the same about Sal too. Doesn't really give him the light of day. There's many characters who live in that building who don't really give him the light of day.
No. Maybe that's contributed to his maladjustment with life. Maybe he's just sick of getting kicked around, and he unfortunately took it out on Jerry.
That's right, in a really bad way.
Yeah, for sure.
But luckily they had the pea-stained couch to replace, so it wasn't all bad until Poppie stained it again.
I kind of feel like that Poppie staining the couch was almost like a bit of unintentional revenge for Jerry and Elaine.
Yeah, that was clearly unintentional that time. I don't think, unlike the couch, I don't think Poppie had an intention to deliberately.
Oh, no, I just mean it worked out in Jerry and Elaine's favor. They're the ones that got caught out, and they're the ones that are kind of getting screwed over.
Right.
By the doorman, and Poppie peeing on the couch sort of worked out in their favor in that, well, you've got to deal, we got your couch back, but Poppie peed on it, so that's kind of your problem now.
That's
it's just it's just like a small amount of revenge for them.
Yeah, it's just something, and it's right at the end too.
They get some hand back in the situation, as George would say.
Hand, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of hand, a finger's worth of hand.
That's right. I have a feeling that Jerry was probably banned from the building since then.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And even if he
wasn't
wasn't, I reckon they would have gotten. Why can't I think of him? The fruit shop owner.
Oh, Joe.
Joe, I reckon they would have gotten him to come down and tell Jerry that he's banned, just to make the point.
You're banned.
You're banned. You're banned from the building.
Banned from the building. Love that guy. Yeah. But anyway, do you have any other notes on any other secondary characters, my friend?
Look, I do have a couple on Frank, but we've covered him so much. There's nothing really too much to add to what we've already talked about through many, many episodes, and his own What's the Deal with episode, our second one ever with my folks, actually. What's the Deal with the Seinfeld Parents back in 2017, our 10th episode overall.
That's right.
So we do talk about him quite a lot there. So, yeah, I do have a couple of notes, but just thinking about it now, nothing worth talking about.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I guess if you haven't watched the episode before you've listened to this, go and watch it and you'll see Frank in all his glory. For sure.
I do want to give a shout out to the scene where Estelle and George walk in on Frank and Kramer trying on the bra. It's funny anyway, but what I think makes it even funnier is when the cha-cha music's playing and you see in the background Kramer with this weird kind of grin laugh on his face, dancing.
He looks really satisfied,
Yeah. I mean, Frank, Estelle, and George are just very awkwardly in shock. They don't really know what to do.
Well,
Frank
seems like he's really into the music still. Like, he looks a bit nervous, but he's still really into it.
Yeah. But he still definitely seems like he's a kangaroo in headlights. He's just a bit, what do I do? What do I say? This is awkward. But Kramer's just not bothered at all. He's dancing and jiving along to the cha-cha music, and it makes me laugh.
He loves it. Yes, it makes me laugh too.
It's great.
It is. Anyway, let's take one more break, mate. And when we come back, we're going to find out where the doorman sits in our episodes we have done so far. And there's not many episodes to go after this, probably like 20-something from here on in. So we'll find out where the doorman sits and if any of today's secondary characters make our top 20 secondary character list of all time.
Hey, we're twins. What? Our shirts, they're the same.
Oh, imagine that.
Okay, The Doorman, Season 6, Episode 18. Where does it appear on your list of episodes we've reviewed so far?
Out of 139 episodes, number 41.
Oh, nice. That's
Yes.
a pretty good ranking.
It is. Like you said, really underrated episode, and I have to agree. I was laughing a lot. The Frank with the bro and the mansia, one of the most famous Seinfeld moments on the show, and yeah, really came to fruition on this one, and it kind of wrapped up 3 subplots quite nicely with the bro and the mansia. And yeah, I really enjoyed Larry Miller as Sal the Doorman. I think he was just really snarky, but also kind of likable too, in a way. I don't know, I thought he was a jerk, but I still kind of liked him, which was a bit weird.
Well, he's so skilled at these sort of strategic manipulative situations. You almost have a respect for him because he's just so, everything just unfolds exactly as he planned. And that requires a certain amount of intellect and cunning. So
Yes,
I think that's what makes him likable, even though he's just pure evil.
He's sly like a fox.
Yeah, as Jerry said, and as I said before, diabolical.
Diabolical. What about you, mate?
This comes in at number 56,
Okay.
so a bit lower than yours, but I pretty much agree on why the episode is good. Bit of an underrated episode. The Bro Manzia storyline is probably top 5 Frank storylines, I would say, in terms of fame and just comedy as well. Yeah, and I love how disturbed Estelle is when George starts questioning her about her grandmother, and also when she comes into the room where Kramer and Frank are trying on the bra. Everyone's on fire in this episode. It's really, really good.
Why do you want to know if your grandma is bosomy?
Bosomy.
Bosomy.
Where do your genes come from? Where do you get your genes?
And George says, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Oh, I love her reaction when she comes into the room, which is like, oh my God.
He's walking around like J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, for 40 years I lived with your father. He never wanted to try on my underwear, and then he moves in with you, and all of a sudden he turns into J. Edgar Hoover.
Great line. Great line.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering, if you're a bit of a younger listener, J. Edgar Hoover was the former head of the FBI, I think.
Back in the 30s or 40s or something?
40s and 50s, yeah. Right. He was during like the McCarthy era, like when Soviet paranoia, commie paranoia was at its height. And he was, I think it was a rumor at the time, but it sort of came out to be truth maybe after he retired from public life, or maybe even after he died, that he was a prominent cross-dresser, which, in a conservative organization like the FBI during a conservative time in America's history, I'm sure would have been very, very contentious.
Today it'd be all right if he was. I mean, he'd be accepted, but probably not back then,
no. No. And I think he was a conservative, a conservatively minded person, at least publicly. So that probably added to the controversy that happened around that. But yeah, great reference.
Indeed. Very good, very good. Do any of today's secondaries make your 20? None do, but special shout out to Sal.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I did like all the secondaries in this episode. One person or one storyline, I guess I wish they elaborated on a bit more, was the Germans.
Yeah.
Horst. Anyone named Horst to me is intriguing, but obviously they can only fit so much in. But yeah, no, none of the secondaries appear in my top 20.
Fair enough, my friend. Fair enough. But anyway, that was another episode of But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. Thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate your texts, your emails, your tweets, your Facebook messages, whatever you send us, whether it's through Seinfeldisms, our Facebook page, or our Bidwabask Facebook page, which has recently been reactivated. We accidentally got deleted by Facebook, and now it's been reactivated. So weird.
Yeah, we couldn't figure out why. Normally they deactivate pages for like copyright material or offensive material, but none of that was happening. Nope. And after I lodged about 4 or 5 appeals, didn't hear anything. We made a new Facebook page because we thought it was a lost cause. And then just today, hours before recording, I get a notification on my phone saying, we have reviewed your unpublished page appeal and we've decided to republish the page. So yeah, look forward to seeing us back on Facebook in full force again.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so go back. So we might have 2 pages for the next couple of weeks. So the one which is called But I Don't Wanna be a secondary character. Not, but I don't want to. I don't want to is our one we're going to delete. So don't go to that.
Indeed. Indeed. You can get in touch with us via email as well, and we are on other forms of social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit, as well as Facebook, which we just mentioned. If you want to listen to previous episodes, you can do so, and it would really help out if you want to rate us or review us, and you can support us financially as well
on Patreon and PayPal. And like we mentioned at the start of the episode, Patreon, you do get bonus podcast episodes of different things, and it's all for $2 a month US plus any applicable taxes depending on where you are in the world.
That's right. And finally, we do have a Facebook group called Seinfeldisms. It's the biggest Seinfeld Facebook group in the world, so if you want to join the fun, we will be running some trivia events very soon, so check that out. We'll be running different events in different time zones, so if you're in the US, we'll have an event for you. Australasia or Australia, let's face it, one for you, and one for Europe as well. So just keep an eye on the page for those events. They'll be posted in the next week or so.
Can't wait.
Indeed. I am one of your hosts, Stephen.
I'm the other host, Ivan, and next week we are joined possibly by another very special guest very close to you, Stephen.
Yes, my sister will be joining us next week when we talk about The Wallet. A fantastic episode. She'll be joining us. She's been pestering me for a couple of weeks to join in on the podcast, and finally got around to sending her a message and confirming that. So that should be really fun.
Yeah, it'd be very good to have another family member of yours on the pod. We've had your mum and dad on, in the past.
Yeah, that's right. She, my sister Sarah, is a massive Seinfeld fan, so I'm sure she'll have a lot of good insights and quotes from the show, as to be expected.
Yep, can't wait to meet her.
Yeah, indeed. I am one of your hosts, Steve.
And I am Ivan, like I said before. And big thanks also to Parkers, who had a really awesome Seinfeldism. You can go listen to his podcast, The Campfire, with Parkers and Daly. Just a couple of blokes chatting around a virtual campfire about different things. And they're currently on hiatus, but they've got plenty of episodes in their back catalogue, so go check them out.
For sure. We'll catch you all next week. Thank you so much for listening again.
Alrighty. Take care of yourselves and each other during these very difficult times. And yeah, we'll catch you next week, eh?